what am I doing here? Who am I? What is my calling? And use the word calling because it means something higher than your just ego personality self is calling me to accomplish in my life. And what's going to help me do that? So you start looking at, what is greatness? What do I want to aspire to? What people can I look at that that are role models for me, and what can I learn from them and incorporate into the way I live my life? So that's a very good practice also. Yeah, well, taking drugs or drinking alcohol is just a way to change your brain chemistry, okay?
Okay.
And you get addicted to that. Technology does the same thing. It changes your chemistry and you become addicted. And one of the definitions of addiction is you can...
Hi there. Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow and scale your business. In this episode, I had a discussion with John Dupuy. John is a Texas native raised in Latin America, served as a military police investigator in Europe. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Marginal Languages from Texas State University and MA in Transpersonal Psychology from JFK University. John co-founded Passages to Recovery and Open Sky Wilderness Therapy and founded Integral Recovery. He is also author of Integral Recovery book, a revolutionary approach to the treatment of alcoholism and addiction. John teaches at a JFK University and he's also a CEO of iAwake Technologies, a meditation tech company. John is a meditator, fitness enthusiast, musician, and he also plays guitar and sings blues with several albums. He's also pioneered Brainwave entertainment for addiction treatment, and he's also a co-host of a podcast, Deep Transformation. Now, this was a very interesting discussion. We talked about John's book, Integral Recovery, and also talked about mental health challenges. Recent stats shows that 1 in every 5 people, somebody either dealing with the mental health challenges or they know somebody in the family or in the friend circle who's dealing with these challenges. John talks about his iAwake technology meditation company, how the content they produce in that company can help out when people dealing with these mental health challenges. And we also talk about addiction. I think one of the items you will find very interesting is, when John talks about not only drug addictions, but modern day addiction, whether it's a social media device or content online, so much videos and so much other content that are distraction for a lot of people. Not only business leaders need to deal with this, but more importantly, what can they do to help their teams to deal with these kind of distractions as well? I hope you enjoy this discussion as much as I did. And if you like these videos, if you find a value in this discussion, don't forget to send us your feedback and subscribe to this channel. So until next time, please welcome John Dupuy. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today our guest is somebody very special for John Dupuy. John, I hope I pronounced the last name right.
Dupuy.
Dupuy. My apologies.
Yeah. So probably a lot of Dupuys in Canada, by the way. So it's a well-known French name.
Perfect. So thank you so much for your time, John. Welcome to the podcast. And while researching a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your work, I learned a lot, about your book and your podcast as well. So I'm looking forward to learning from you. Looking forward to a discussion, John.
You bet. Looking forward to be. Thanks for asking.
Okay, beautiful. So if you walk our audience through, John, the people who are listening, what is iAwake Technologies about, and that what is the deep transformation looks like goes to, pieces that you've been working on. So
and there's another business that I started. It's no longer going, but it's called Passages to Recovery, and it was a wilderness program for people who were struggling with alcoholism and addictions. So that was a very important part of my life. And so iAwake Technologies is we create audio tracks that entrain the brain to desired brainwave states. So back in the 60s, they started learning that meditators like swamis and nuns and people that live, contemplative lives and meditated could actually change their brainwave states through their practices. And before that, science kind of thought, well, meditation, it's just some kind of mumbo jumbo from the past. But they went, wow, these people are actually doing that consciously. So then later on in the 60s, I believe it was the early 60s, they found out that you could, by doing 2 different beats in each ear, that you could entrain the brain to the difference between those two beats. And so you could actually consciously use sound to take you into whatever is the desired brainwave states. And of course, we learned a lot about the different brainwave states and when you're doing certain things, what's a brainwave state when you're deeply relaxed? What is when you're, really motoring, being creative, monkey mind, stress, deep meditative states, and so on. So we design tracks that people can listen to. Usually, some of them you don't always need headphones, but it's recommended for most of them headphones, so you can entrain your brain. And you just start a daily practice. It's really good to get up in the morning and before you start looking at your emails and the news and all of that stuff, just go to your place and you can do it for 20 minutes or however long desired. But it takes about data says it takes about 10 minutes to really to kick in. So, not 5 minutes. I mean, stopping for 5 minutes is good with or without the entrainment. But if you want to do it, and you'll often find that you can do a lot of creative thinking. New ideas come up or solutions to problems that you might be having, and deep relaxation, de-stressing. If you're doing it as a business person, you want to de-stress your brain. You want to be more creative. You want to have more focus. You can actually listen to these things while you're writing or typing or thinking or just creative. It's that way. If you're doing it for spiritual reasons, it's a really good way to practice deep a meditation or deep interior prayer. So it has a lot of uses. It's used at working with addicts to help them understand what meditation was. And usually it takes years of meditation practice so you really start feeling the benefits of meditation. And with this stuff, you can start feeling the benefits right away.
So it's you could combine that with the meditation. It's not either you meditation or you do this. You can combine those
Oh,
two.
absolutely. It just makes your meditation more effective. And advanced meditators, when they use it, they can go, wow. I mean, they really get right away that this is, it's taken to that place that they're already familiar with.
Got it. So I see that you guys built the app as well and the tracks and a lot of very interesting. How does that connect to deep transformation? That your podcast.
Right. Well, I discovered the works of Ken Wilber, who is a philosopher and thinker, and kind of not kind of uh, the originator of integral model. And I started applying that to my work with drug addicts. And so I wrote a paper that got recognized, and later I wrote a book on it, and I was using other people's version of this of brain entrainment technology. Then I met a gentleman, Eric Thompson, who had also, and I'd suffered with depression. I'm not an addict, but I knew that, and he had the same kind of background. He was creating these very powerful entrainment tracks. So I said, "Well, send me some, and then let me see what you're doing." And it was very powerful. It was more powerful than anything I'd used before with my students and myself. And then I just got the inspiration. Well, why don't we do our own thing and start a business? So that's the way it was part of the work with alcoholics and addicts and the integral model and designing. And one of the things I really talk about a lot for addicts and non-addicts is to develop a transformational daily practice, which includes your
Mhm.
body, your mind, your interiors, your emotions, and just stuff. It's like entrainment meditation is really good, but it won't make your biceps bigger. In other words, it won't do your body work. You have to be integral, include all the necessary parts. And and I told my addict students, if you do this, if you do it a transformative practice in my house for like 8 years, big old house, Victorian house was full of my beloved addicts. And we just work, we go to the gym together, we meditate twice a day and, go through all the stuff. And if you keep this up, you will have a very good chance of staying sober. And so it turned out. So, and it's not just for addicts. I would tell my students that this integral, integrative daily practice is not just for us who are blessed with addiction, right? It's for everyone. And you guys are kind of squeaky wheels, so you're getting the grease right now, but it's very, very useful.
well, you're training your brain to achieve something different, right? So,
Yeah.
so definitely you've been helping a lot of people on an addict side, but could that be used in a business world? Either, if somebody wants to achieve some goals or somebody wants to achieve higher levels of result on something, right? Could they train their brain to achieve some different result as well, or is it strictly on the field you've been working on?
No, I would say probably more, people who aren't addicts use it today in our business as far as the people that are using our product. So definitely so. And, as part of the integral model created by Ken Wilber, who I've known for years now, and very supportive of my book and my work and never asked me for a dime or anything like that, was just a really great guy and brilliant. And one of the things is the 4 quadrants, okay? So you have a cross in 4 quadrants,
Okay.
and the upper right is the individual exterior, which is, let's talk about human beings. It's your
Okay.
exterior human self. The upper left is your interior human self. So in the upper right, you're going to have, well, you're your physical body, but you're also going to have your skill sets. Do you know how to program? Do you know how to use the latest data? Do you know how to, the all the skills you need to function in this ever expanding, quickly expanding marketplace and world that
Okay.
we live in. And the upper left is your values, who you are, why you're doing it, what's your motive, and your traumas, your beliefs, who you think you are as a person based on your life and your memories. Okay, that's the interior.
Okay.
Go down to lower left, and you have the collective interior. So that
I see.
means your culture, uh, basic beliefs, where your society is, your business, where are they coming from? Are most of your employees uh, fundamentalists, devout
Hmm.
religionists of whatever ilk? Are they, business success oriented? Are they postmodern, kind of green, care about people and plants and environmental and civil rights and women's rights and animal rights and all this stuff? Okay, so where your people are, they coming from an earlier thing, which is just about power and warrior and all this stuff? And so it's important to know where they're at, because to be effective, you have to communicate with people on the level that they're at. And
Yeah.
so I have a very powerful religious Christian, I guess, a fundamentalist background when I was young. And I know a lot of Bible, and it's definitely part of me. And I live it most of the time now in the South, in the United States, the Deep South, which is the Bible Belt.
Hmm.
And so I can talk to people, God bless you. And, I can quote verses and, God willing, and use this kind of language they completely relate to. And it's not phony. That
Hmm.
is a part of me. Uh, but I wouldn't meet somebody like you and start, just, can we pray together before we start the podcast or
Yeah.
something like that? So you learn where people are at, and you function, you communicate in words they can hear. So if somebody is say a fundamentalist Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or any other version thereof, um, and you talk to them in postmodern green talk, you're going to lose them. They're just going to close down immediately. Or if you
Hmm.
talk to a postmodern person, this green, environmental, communal, relativistic level, in the language of faith and scripture, and that they're just going to close down. And
Hmm.
so, and if you're talking to somebody in orange, which, interesting thing about this model is called spiral dynamics, and there's several versions that people created, but it tracks our individual moral development, but
Hmm.
it also tracks the moral development of our species, human beings.
So,
So way back, our ancestors were at a level that was very instinctual, kind of tribal, and that's how we survived. Later on, this red or power, individualism came, and that's when you started having great empires develop,
hmm.
and
Hmm.
kings and emperors, and would go out and conquer other peoples and create these big things. After that, and every level that develops is a response to the problems created by the level before. So, red power is pretty bloody, and it's pretty, just lawless, and it can be very cruel. So blue, was a response to that, and in history they call it the beginning of the actual age, when the great religions begin to come online: Judaism and Christianity. If I'm leaving anybody out, I'm sorry. And later on, Islam.
Yeah.
And it was a response to that very what came before. So it gave people rules, it gave people moral guidance and devotion, part of a group. Uh, the problem with that, one of the major problems, is there only one. It's one way. That used to be a Christian thing we'd say back in the '60s. One way, right? Jesus.
Yes.
And if you say that to a Muslim, okay, well, I don't do Jesus, and
So
vice versa.
before we move on to a different topic, what was the fourth one? I know the quadrant. I want to make sure that people
Okay,
understand quadrant as well.
I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
Already so broke. You just, Johnny, hold that, boy.
No, no, the first one was let me just summarize. The first one was your skill set,
And your body, your physical body,
physical body,
your exterior self,
and then it was into all your core values and all
your
core
interior
values.
world,
Exactly.
all of that.
And the bottom, the first one was on the left side was your exterior, where you talking about socials, all
It's
the
the
social
we
structure.
space, yeah. Mhm.
What was the fourth one?
Fourth one is like everything else. It's
Of course.
you have capital, you have money to start your business, for example. Do you have a workspace? Is it good? Do you have all the computers? Are you using the right programs? Do you have IT people that can keep up with this revolution that we're going through right now? Are you have green space? Are you taking care of the environment? Are you making it safe for animals and children and generations to come? And so, and you put all that together and you have an integral way of looking at things. And the problem is, if you only focus on one thing, like
Mhm.
the interior part, and you neglect the exterior, uh, uh, individual, and the cultural, and the physical world, it's gonna be a really wobbly. It's not gonna work. So,
So when you look at what's going on in the world today, John, whether it doesn't matter what country, just globally or nationally, from those quadrant, when you look at it from a world affairs, what's going on out there, are you able to pinpoint which area are we missing? So that's where there's so much chaos going on economically, financially, and politically, all that stuff. Is that related to your quadrant? Are we
oh
missing one?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. It makes it easier to understand and realize the challenges and what we need to do to get the job done, to survive and to prosper and to make a world that works for everybody and all creatures, basically, I would say.
So what area you think we lack in more that is causing all the chaos? What we're seeing out there.
Well, definitely interior values. All right.
Yep.
You wouldn't steal from somebody. You wouldn't use uh, bad business practices to
Mhm.
screw people out of their money if you had ethical, moral grounding, whatever that might be for you.
So the corruption and all that kind of stuff that happens on the value side of things, what you
Yes.
mentioned. Okay.
And you look at the we space in America, we're completely divided. It's a
Mm.
culture war that's insane. And President Trump has gained a lot of power, the presidency, by exploiting that. By dividing people, fear,
Mhm.
anger, change, and that's a huge problem. I don't know. At some point, we're going to have a leader that can think intricately and realize you're dealing with people that are fundamentalists. You're dealing with like red gangster street people. You're dealing with orange success oriented capitalists, and you're dealing with the progressive freedom for all things and communal and the environment and all that. You're dealing with all these different things. So how can you speak in a language that can connect people? And
Mm.
Obama was pretty good at that, but I don't know how you you be a politician that is not conservative or whatever it is now, MAGA. If you have Fox News that goes 24/7 probably has more viewers than any other news network that's constantly saying you're just awful, you're awful, you're a criminal, you're awful, you're destroying the world, you're awful, you're awful, you're awful. That
Mhm.
is really hard to bring that together, but that's one of the issues that we have to deal with. Is there a responsibility in the press? There used to be. And Ronald Reagan, there used to be certain standards you had to meet to have NBC, ABC, or CBS, the four big ones. And he just loosened that up, and said, you don't have to go by these standards anymore. And that gave rise to Fox News and its ilk. And of course, it gave rise to that which was resisting Fox, like MSNBC and CNN. So you just have these two totally different
Mhm.
house of mirrors that are totally contrary to each other, and people that listen to one get one worldview, and the other people get one oppositional and totally different. Like I had a niece, I was talking to her. We got into politics, and I said, I started talking about Trump, President Trump. I'll be respectful here.
Mhm.
Um, Talking about, I don't know, gobbling up Canada as a 51st state. you know, which I just thought ludicrous and very disrespectful, and it really hurt me and made me ashamed to be an American.
Mhm.
I take this stuff personally. So when my country does bad things, I feel bad. When my country does good things, I feel good.
Mhm.
So just like, your children, you'd feel the same way. I mean, it's a part of you. So she said, I've never heard that. And when she was probably watching Fox News and stuff, and they don't talk about that stuff. So I said, well, check it out on ChatGPT. Blah, blah, blah. Oh my god, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it depends what world you're in, and, of course, the internet, there's almost infinite, different
Mhm.
perspectives, but some perspectives, and that's another thing, after we get to the green, okay, going back to spiral dynamics, I just leapt from the quadrants over there again,
Yeah.
you get to something that's called second tier. All the colors that I mentioned, all the levels that I mentioned before are first tier. Okay. But at second tier, there's this huge leap in understanding, and you can actually start seeing all these different levels of moral development. And sometimes you kind of had red, blue, and it's complicated. But then you can start seeing it and going, okay, well, how do we work with these things? How do we find the positive things about what
Got it. Got it.
MAGA people believe? And
Yeah.
how do we separate that, from the negative, and how do we look into the progressive and see what's positive about that, what's good, but where are they erring? So you begin to be able to sort it out and not come to a middle ground, but hopefully to a higher ground.
Yeah.
And if you can do that in a business, you got something.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about what are you looking from different perspective, John? I know you're looking from your perspective, but you guys have a freedom of information, freedom of expression on your side, right?
Yeah,
But me coming from a country where media is controlled, having that a two-sided perspective is a blessing. For where Canada, media is funded by government, right? So you
right.
control the narrative, right? So not having that, we look at different way that at least you have a both side of that. We only have a one side,
Yeah.
right? So it's how you look at it. Definitely, you want to have some control on it, but having two side of opinion, all freedom of expression a little bit coming from the countries where that's the control. It's give you a different perspective. I'm just looking at it from that perspective.
No, and I'm sure there's positive things about your uh, Canadian broadcasting system. Okay,
Hmm.
I kind of
It's
know
pros and cons.
I,
Yeah.
I kind of get where Canada's at, generally speaking, and it's a pretty high level of humanity and stuff. And you get on the other side of the border, you get others. We just have it's a free fall, and there's no rules, and that's problematic also. And obviously, controlling things by the government. If you have a really good, enlightened government, that's not so bad. If you are a Nazi government, well, or Russia right now. I was in Moscow in 2000, I think it was 14 or 15, right before they invaded and took back Crimea, and they
Hmm.
just canceled the last semi-independent television station in Russia while I was there. So all you get all the time is Putin, 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 and what the party says. So that's obviously problematic. They
Yeah, yeah,
don't know what's going on in the rest of the world.
yeah. Pretty much the same thing in Canada. The media is funded by government. When you have a media funded by government, you get to control it. It's you need the free media, so people not hesitant to say what report. It has to be fair, but they're not hesitant to
Yeah.
report. But let's talk about addiction. You did a lot of work on that area, John. One of the items I've been seeing recently is I know your book is on addiction is about alcoholism, all the drug addictions, all the area. Uh, Definitely, that's still valid. A lot of people still struggling with it, and they need a lot of help. But other side, what I'm seeing out there in the business world these days, addiction is either addiction to social media or to digital content or to devices. What are your thoughts? I want to get your take on it. What do you think? Is it a similar to addiction, or is it a worse? Is it a better? How do you deal with this kind of addiction when it's not even transparent. You have no idea you getting addicted to something, but you are getting addicted to. And I know business leaders, a lot of them I talk to, their staffs are addicted to that, and they're trying to help people to stay away from all this and move business forward. And I think that's a struggle for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, well, taking drugs or drinking alcohol is just a way to change your brain chemistry, okay?
Okay.
And you get addicted to that. Technology does the same thing. It changes your chemistry and you become addicted. And one of the definitions of addiction is you can start being aware, or the people around you can be aware that this is really going overboard and it's hurting you. Like your drinking is really, you turn different, you get violent, you scream, you insult people, you get in car wrecks, whatever it is, and you can go, oh, I have a problem. I need to, stop drinking because I can't handle alcohol, or need to moderate. All right. The addict, by definition, at least my definition, can't do that. They're out of control. So without help from the outside, they can't stop drinking. And so that's why we have treatment centers, and that's why we had 12 steps. It's the same thing with this. I read a study recently that said the average young black male in the United States spends, I'm charging my thing up here, 11
Mhm.
hours a day doing this.
Uh,
11 hours a day. I
and
mean,
you wake probably about 15, 16 hours.
yeah, and we don't know what is this doing to our brains. I grew up where we didn't have cell phones, and you had to go to a phone booth, and if you wanted to call United States from Spain or something, it's really expensive. The more you talk now, with totally instant communication all over the world, and but the generations now, they couldn't imagine not having a phone that connects you with everything, and it's like as you were saying, it's information overwhelm. So there needs to be and there already is. There are programs that deal with people that have addictions to technology.
Well, it
So
produces us dopamine same as the drugs do, right? Application, whether social media apps,
same thing to pretty same basic issue. Yeah.
so whether it's a social media apps, when you're scrolling social media, going through the videos after videos, shorts video, or you taking the drugs, you producing that, you jacking the brain with a bunch of dopamine, and it's addictive.
And as you said earlier, Gurmeet, the so much of it is designed to do exactly that, to addict
Mhm.
you.
What do you think business owners can do in one of the issue with the too much information sometimes, John, is, if you look at 90s or 80s, people didn't have information. The challenge was how to get the right information. And
Sure.
people not getting somewhere because there's no they need access to right information. If you look at today, we have a too much information, and people don't make a decision, because when you have too much information, you're not making decision this way or that way. You simply just so overwhelmed with the information. And that I see with a lot of businesses, business leaders are struggling with when they staff is, have so much information. Even business leaders have so much information. So, you have to narrow to you have to filter through all the clutter and keep focus on your goals and what you're trying to do as a company. What do you think business leaders can do if they can use some of from your book or some from your experience? How they can help their employees to stay focused and move forward instead of getting distracted with all the information?
Well, that's a really great question, and it's a huge problem. There's a couple of things. First of all, I think an interior practice where you turn everything off for a bit,
Hmm.
to start your day, or you can do it at the end of the day too, or you do it twice a day, can help. Because when you meditate, you start. being aware of them. Watch your mind function. All these thoughts come up. They appear out of nowhere and just you're thinking about the 1956 New York Yankees or something like what and that connects to what Ivanka Trump was wearing when she got married. I mean, it's random stuff. The Buddhists call it monkey mind. So when you can start seeing that, okay, you can watch it and it begins to slow down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that is really important that I've noticed with my own, trying to sort through this is on the Deep Transformation podcast, which I'm a co-host with Dr. Roger Walsh, we had a Jesuit priest, Father David McCullum, on the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about something that the Jesuits have been working on since St. Ignatius founded the thing back in the 1500s, I believe. It's called discernment, okay? Where
Okay.
you learn there's multiple others, almost endless perspectives, but some perspectives are a higher level and better than others, okay?
Yeah.
So you have to say, okay, you know, what am I doing here? Who am I? What is my calling? And use the word calling because it means something higher than your just ego personality self is
Yeah.
calling me to accomplish in my life, and what's going to help me do that. And when I listen to this person to just fill me with anger and hatred to other people or the government or other races or what is the fruit, what is it causing in me, and you kind of learn to, okay, this is who I am, this is what matters, this is what I'm seeing, that even though I'm not sure, but the direction that we need to move into as a human family,
Mm-hmm.
we're at such a perilous place, and you can start making informed, wiser decisions about how you should treat yourself, how much you should be on the internet, how much you and also begin to sense when it's too much. It's become an overwhelm, and you're just losing yourself, or use religious terms, losing your soul to this just constant flow of stimulus and data.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Two things. There's a lot of things you mentioned in that. Let me dissect two things. Let's talk about monkey mind first. I read somewhere, is it possible to quiet your mind down? One side of the argument will be, yeah, you need to quiet your mind down so there's no thoughts coming in, and other side, read a report that it's not possible to quiet a mind down because mind's gonna have a thoughts all the time. All you gotta do is replace the bad thoughts with the good thoughts, instead of quieting it down. So what are your thoughts on those two sides? Like, one simply says, listen, you got to quiet it down so no thoughts coming in. It just on a still from a meditation standpoint. Other one simply saying you cannot quiet it down. Even when you're sleeping, the thoughts coming in a subconscious mind, you just got to replace the bad thoughts with the good thoughts. It's based on, what are you consuming all day. Do you have any thoughts on either side of those?
Well, I would say yes and yes. Okay, they're both right and partially right.
Okay.
And meditation practice has been around for a long, long time, thousands of years, and the practice is to quiet the mind. So it wouldn't be going on, for millennia now if
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't successful. In a simple meditation, you just meditate and you relax and just follow your breath in and out. That's one way of meditating. So the thoughts come, say, hi, they arise. You don't grab onto them, just let them
Okay.
arise. And eventually, sometimes, with practice, you begin to just presence, you know.
You just
There's
paying
no
attention to the breath.
right. There's no fish jumping out of the ocean right now. It's just there is. It's just the ocean. And and then again, you have to discern between, and that takes a lot of practice. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're backpacking and you're out in the wilderness, you've been out there for a week and you're on this certain, mountainside or something, and you just see the beauty, and all of a sudden your mind just shuts up for a bit. And you're just in the moment, okay? And most of us, when we're in these altered states, creative states, for example, when you're creating your company, or professional athletes talk about when they get
Mm-hmm.
into that zone, they're not thinking, they're just being present, and it's all going. And I mean, you even love the people that you're competing against, because it just becomes one dance, one thing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very altered state that is not all the stuff flashing. You just kind of know what to do. and I'm a musician, and sometimes you get in that zone, and it's just like the song's coming through you, and it's bloody brilliant. And it's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, this is why I love music so much." Or you can do it not just to music, but listening to music. Sometimes you just listen and it puts you in an altered state. So there's many states of consciousness. And our culture and our technology seems to be, to iAwake maybe exception and other people, in the business of just flooding us with info and getting us to buy things or do whatever it is. And, I mean, pornography, I mean, God, people, is there addiction to pornography? Absolutely. It's a huge thing.
Mhm.
Um, so there are ways to work with it, and yes, you can still your mind, and, iAwake helps, and these meditation practices that have been around for a long time, and these meditation practices while you're listening to these entrainment tracks helps even more, I believe. So there's ways of doing it, and when you can still the mind, I think that's the place where our creativity comes more to the fore. The great ideas, the solutions, you work and you work and you work on an issue and you just go, God, what? And then all of a sudden, boop, out of left field, actually, this is my left hand, out of right field comes the answer. And it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So
It it's
that's
very
where a
interesting
lot
you
of our
Yeah, it's
sorry,
very interesting. It's very interesting you mentioned that. I try to control our negative thoughts. For my way. What I find it worked for me so far. And is lined with what you just mentioned. Is that if I want to control my thoughts, I don't want to have any negative thoughts. I don't want to have any the thoughts that I want to control my thought process. What best way for me to do that is control the content I consume. Because if I'm consuming negative content, I'm gonna have a negative thoughts later on, right? So the best way to do that is just control the content what you're consuming. And if I'm not consuming any negative content, I'm not gonna have those thoughts later on. And that's how I control it. I'm not sure if it's the right way, but that's how I've been doing it for a long time.
well, no, and it's just like eating, if you wanna get healthy, you can't, go to McDonald's 7 days a week and eat there 3 times a day. Can you imagine? After 6 days, you're just like, oh, I was when I was in the army, I was in Germany, and I really like schnitzels. There's Zigeuner schnitzels, there's Jaeger schnitzel, there's schnitzels anyway, and I loved them as a young man and when I was in Germany, so I went back later and I said, "I'm gonna have schnitzels." So I had about 4 days of eating schnitzels every night. After that, I'm, like, schnitzeled out, I can't do another schnitzel for a while. So, yeah, it's very similar to that, how you feed your mind, how you feed your body. You feed it good, it's gonna be good. You feed it bad, it's gonna be bad.
And creativity comes from that. Having too much information. Sometimes we think we need a lot of information to be creative. You don't need that. I find that the less thoughts I have, more creative I am. To create on a work on a business and figure out some idea what's not working in a business.
Absolutely, and listen, read the good books or listen to them. I don't know if you do now, but, absorb, those who are inspiring. Look at your heroes, for example. What virtues did they manifest that's really, amazing? Beatles are just so bloody creative.
Yeah.
They were together for 7 years, and they broke up before they're in their 30s, you know? What an impact. And Reverend King here, he's a big hero of mine. And so you start looking at, what is greatness? What do I want to aspire to? What people can I look at that that are role models for me, and what can I learn from them and incorporate into the way I live my life? So that's a very good practice, also.
Business leaders definitely. One thing I talk to a lot of business leaders, John, on an ongoing basis. This is one of the struggle they have. There's so much happen during the day. There's a chaos in a business. I mean, business itself, by definition, has to be chaos because that you solve those problem and you make revenue, right? So there's a lot of happening operationally. There's a lot of pressure to build a company, scale a
Right.
company's revenues. What's going on out there? Market changing, everything's changing. So they go through a lot of that stuff on a daily basis, and I think that the challenge is to what we've been talking about for last few minutes. That how do you navigate all this chaos and control still your thought process and stay focused and keep moving forward instead of getting, because it's very easy at a split of a second you can get distracted in a different direction and lose a focus, right?
Yeah.
Not only you gotta do it for yourself, but the responsibility is first you learn how to do it, and then you gotta teach your people how to do that as well.
Yeah. There's There's a lot of things, you can spend time in the wilderness, walking in nature, really good way to help. I'm I'm not a MAGA guy. I'm not a big President Trump fan, and
Mhm.
he was reelected. I could have just freaked out, but I went out into the desert with my dog, and, it's like,
Control.
okay, yeah, there's
Mhm.
there's there's something bigger than just, the world of politics and all that stuff. There's something, it really helped me, and, of course, I was a wilderness guide and started a wilderness program, so I spent a lot of times outdoors, and that's important for me, even if it's just, you know, walking in a park or, smelling a flower or something. That really it can be very transformative if you're not just constantly racing thoughts. The meditation, starting to learn how to get some control over your mind, and all of these things just stresses us out. Having the practice where you relax your body, you relax your mind, so you can sort through all the garbage in, right, garbage out, giggle, they call it, and start getting into the deeper places of, creativity and how to be successful and how to negotiate these 4 quadrants that we talked about. What do I
Mhm.
need to do this with my skill set, uh what I need to learn to be the person I wanna be, whether I'm the boss or I'm working for a corporation. What are my interior? Do I have bad, do I just think I'm a loser and I'm no good because I had a rough childhood? Uh, I mean, that can completely affect how you grow up, or you can go against that. I was so abused. Now I'm gonna get everybody. I'm gonna be a winner. Nobody's ever gonna hurt me again. And that
Mhm.
completely. So you have to deal with your interior stuff and culture. Uh, Normally, for example, if you're an alcoholic in recovery, you don't want to hang out with alcoholics.
Yeah. You gotta avoid that.
Not gonna be, yeah, you gotta find people that are supporting you becoming what you need to be. So
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
anything. So if you want to be a martial artist, you hang out with martial artists. If you want to be a musician, you hang out with musicians, hopefully that are better than you so you can learn from them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to work on this.
I had somebody on my podcast, John, a few months ago. Eric, he written a book on being grateful. So his approach to some of that stuff was he makes a list of being grateful every morning, and every night before he goes to sleep. He simply said, "Listen, I list 10 items that I'm being grateful for. So I focus on that instead of all the chaos out there that kind of grounds him." Any thoughts on that? Is that something that you recommend doing that as well?
Absolutely. I have a colleague, Dr. Bob Weathers, and he's written about talked about a gratitude practice, they call it,
Hmm.
just writing down, things that you're grateful for. And that just it's really it's really good. It helps you get through the negativity.
Grounds you a
And
little bit. Yeah.
and if you don't do that, and I suffered with depression, you can become very depressed. And that is a mental illness. And that can, lead you all the way to suicide or self-destructive behaviors like drugs and alcohol that is slow suicide. Some of them are faster than others. So yeah, I think that's a brilliant thing to remind yourself of.
Yeah. Business leader, John. They don't have a lot of time with the employees. Sometimes you're managing 50, 100 employees ongoing basis. You spend a little bit of time, and we spend a lot of time on a camera these days, similar to this, for the meetings and all this stuff. What can they do if they want to start helping the staff as well in the same journey that grounding themselves and being grateful, or just taking care of themselves? What is there something they can do to help the team? So implement something very small to start the process, and then extend from there. What are some of the stuff they can think about and they can start doing for their staff?
Well, first of all, I mean, you have to care about your people. Okay, they're
Hmm.
not just objects to be used to put together this machine. Obviously, you wanna get really talented people that have the skill sets that you need and people that are just really go-getters and other people that have other gifts and put that all together, but you have to care about them. When I used to take groups out in the wilderness, the first couple of weeks were really bloody hard, okay? They didn't know me, they didn't wanna be there, their parents sent them or whatever, but after they understood that, "Hey, this guy, John, really cares about me. He cares about us." And then it would just change experience, and then it became such a great journey, and, like, after the
Hmm.
2 weeks of hell, and, I'm in general, it became, "I'm getting paid to do this. I mean, this is awesome. I'm out with these good friends, and we're journeying through the wilderness and learning about ourselves and, you know, seeing all these challenges and connecting with the earth and nature. So yeah, there's got to be caring. Have to care about people, not treat them as objects. Ask good questions and deeply listen.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell when somebody's listening. I think that's one of the better things I do in my podcast. I listen well and
Mm-hmm.
ask questions and listen and find out where they're at. So when you've got that established, then if you have to do some hard work, like you have to fire somebody or you have to do something or this, they'll know that you're coming from a place of caring and sincerity and that you're a leader that they can trust. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what does it take to I mean, there's so many volumes about leadership that have been, written. So look at what great leaders or people that you think great leaders and what are their qualities. But, those are 2 things that I think are very important. First of all, you care about them,
Mm-hmm.
and iAwake, yeah, I really care about my people, they know. Sometimes I keep it going, not because I need it anymore. We're doing good in the world, I know that, but these people have been working with me like family, and this is their livelihood, and I think about that, and I'm the last one to get paid, so they know that I care about.
Yeah, yeah. Are you still doing those treats, or John? You slowed down those wilderness?
Oh, no, I'm not anymore. I haven't done that for a while, but I still love wilderness, and if you go to my Facebook page, I have all these great photographs of
Right.
the Southern Utah wilderness and other places that I post there, and people really like them. So it's still a huge, important part of my practice is wilderness, and right now I'm in Louisiana. We have another home in Southern Utah, which is,
Mm-hmm.
250 2,500 people in the whole county, all right? Doesn't have a stoplight, and just public lands, parks, BLM, Forest Service, and so you can go just about everywhere except right kind of in the valley where people have their own property. So you can go out there and just immerse yourself, and,
Yeah.
it's absolutely gorgeous.
So were you spending more your time and energy these days, John, on both sides, or more on a deep transformation, or were you spending a lot of time?
Well, on deep transformation, I have really good people that are iAwake, and so I can trust them to keep things going, even though I'm still a part of that. But
Mhm.
building this podcast has been a whole 'nother thing, and we just passed 160,000 subscribers,
Wow.
on YouTube, and then we're growing on these other platforms, and so it's been amazing. I have deep respect for Dr. Roger Walsh, my uh, co-host, and we get these amazing people to be on there and to be
Mhm.
able to connect with people and talk with them and listen and whatever happens, it verges or maybe it doesn't verge on, it seems magical. And sometimes it didn't work. I think one time I can remember we said, no, we can't put this on. It's
Yeah.
just not no.
Yeah,
But
I
both
definitely gotta.
times
Yeah, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just had a listen to 1 or 2 podcasts. I definitely am gonna go check it out. Some more podcasts there. Looks like a lot of interesting discussion on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're there in your journey, you respond to it. And if it's just like, I'm really interested in professional wrestling and hot rods, so this doesn't really speak to me. So, it has its own, uh, community or people that are interested in these subjects.
Yeah, it's great for personal and professional development. You always want a different perspective. You want to learn stuff, and you want to grow, and you want to excel. I mean, these your conversation with Dr. Walsh, definitely that will help out people who are trying to grow themselves or trying to understand what's going on around them.
And as a leader, if you don't work on yourself as a human being, maybe you should bring that up.
Hmm.
It's it's gonna make everything suffer. It's gonna make your family life suffer. It's gonna make your romantic life suffer. It's gonna make your business. It's gonna take on all your shadow stuff that you haven't dealt with. So putting self-growth as one of your priorities throughout your life is really gonna help.
Yeah, and set an example for your people as well. When they say that you spending time on yourself and you growing, they want to grow and they want to learn as well, right?
Yeah,
So you
"What is that guy doing? I want some of it," It's
yeah.
like, "What are you doing?" So you
You know,
can,
and every time I read a good book, and I always share that with my staff, and you know, next thing you know is that they're all talking about the same book that I just gone through. So
yep.
very interesting. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you? And also, where can they find a copy of your book as well?
Yeah, on Amazon, John Dupuy, Integral Recovery.
Okay.
I have a Facebook page, which is several things, social media, which I really don't do. People in my company actually keep it up for the most part, but I do like putting my pictures on there. So, yeah, iAwake, Deep Transformation Podcasts,
Okay.
YouTube or Apple or Spotify or whatever you use, it's all there. And yeah, you can contact us through iAwake. I have to answer a lot of I don't have to, but I do answer a lot of emails, questions, and comments and stuff every.
I'm going to include a link for all of that, what you just mentioned below this video. People can click a link and they can either listen to your podcast, or they can go to your website and connect with you. You know, so we'll have all those links, you know, listed and below the video as well. You know, in having, you know, you know, your content online, I listen to podcasts. There's so much to learn from you. You know, just for this discussion, I learned so much. Hopefully, people who are watching us, they learn, you know, from our discussion as well. But business leaders who are listening, who are watching, I'll definitely encourage them to go listen to your podcast, Deep Front Transformation. Also, check it out your iWake Technologies as well. There's a lot of information there as well. So, you know, and connect with you for conversation. I learned so much. I'm sure whoever connects with you, they're going to learn quite a bit from you as well.
Yeah, and Gurmeet, this has been a relational thing. I don't not always just smart, but you just, you know, drew it out of me. You know, it's important who you're talking to, and I think having people also that you can trust and share and speak from a deep place is very important about being a leader. You know, you have to have those people that you can human connection, good friends, and you have to work at friendship. It's not always easy, and
It's just back to the point you made that, you know, who's you know, genuinely working on it, who's interested in that, right? So if somebody's not interested, they have a different journey they're going through, definitely it's not going to make sense to them. But people who are, you know, on the self growth journey or whatever they're doing, it's going to make a lot of sense to them.
yeah, and remember, you speak to people at the level that they're at, not at the level you would like them to be at. You know,
Hmm.
and
Very interesting. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I learned so much from you, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Gordon, it's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.